that book, not because you wrote it. I gave it to my daughter. And I said, the minute you get comfortable and a little bored at work, think about another job. Think about disrupting your life. The obstacle is the way. That ought to be a fucking book they teach in school. I'm serious. It's really critical thinking should be the way.
Yeah, I was trying to think, when did I do your show? It would have been like 12 or 13 years ago. It would have been forever ago.
Absolutely. I was telling a friend last night, I was coming here, and I said, my staff brought in this book, Trust Me, I'm Lying. You got to read this. And I said, I ain't got time to read. God damn it, I'm doing 5-6 hours of research every day. My executive producer insisted that I bring it home. So I read it one night. I came back and I said, Jesus Christ, we got to get this guy on. I've never read, because that was my business, communications. Yeah. I'd never seen it put that way. And so we got to bring him in. So over the years, I've tracked you, not closely, but I've watched. And I remember telling my friend last night, how in the fuck he went to his editors and said, I know Trust Me Lying is going to be a blockbuster, but I want to start doing books on the Stoics.
Well, they were not excited. They were definitely not excited.
I can imagine.
Well, it was funny because
most people don't know what the Stoics are. They do now because of you. But before.
Well, my editor told me later that they basically were just humoring me, and they hoped that it would come out and not do well, and then I would just write more marketing books.
God.
But I did that in New Orleans. I remember...
I heard that one of your pieces. Yeah. You were living in New Orleans, did that at Tulane Library?
I wrote Trust Me, I'm Lying in New Orleans, and then I wrote the proposal for The Obstacle is the Way there, and I sent it to them the week that Trust Me, I'm Lying came out. That's always what I wanted to do.
Why did I think we got you out of California?
I don't remember. I remember I was on my book tour or something, and you had emailed me, and I, of course, knew who you were because everyone in New Orleans knew who you were. And I remember I came back for it and did it. And then I don't know how much longer I lived there after that. I don't remember exactly when it was.
I had no idea you lived there.
We had dinner in New Orleans.
I know that, but I thought you were just on a book tour and you
No. To write Trust Me, I'm Lying, I very much needed to not live in like a media city. And it was very nice to live in a place where nobody cared and basically may as well have been 1980 or 1880. You know what I mean? Like the city is just...
I'd say you're right.
Yeah. It just lives... It's its own thing with its own like time zone and vibe. And I needed to... Yeah, I needed just a totally different way of thinking to do that book.
I've always said the city was very, very, very good to me.
Yes.
But it's a great place to visit, not to live.
As soon as I finished the book, like I lived there for like 8 or 9 months while I was writing the book, and I loved it. And then as soon as I finished the book, and I was like trying to do business related things I was like, I got to get out of here. This is insane. Absolutely. It was just like, and the city had not changed at all. It was just when I was totally focused and consumed with what I was doing, it was great. And then as soon as I looked around and was like, this is insane. I can't operate here.
Well, see, it's not part of the United States.
It's not part of the world.
It's South America. Yeah. Because when people say Mexico, Ecuador, Argentina,
sure.
Great food, great architecture, great culture, great music.
Yeah.
Crime, stupidity, bad streets, bad infrastructure.
Well, it's like nature is constantly trying to claw back whatever gains civilization has made. And catastrophically in some cases, but just on a daily basis, you're like, oh, the swamp is reclaiming this street. And if civilization does not fight back, it will not be a street much longer.
It's a doomed city. It really is. It
Yeah.
may take another 20 years, but it's doomed. It's not going to make it.
Do you miss it?
No, not at all.
Not at all?
I love Texas.
Yeah?
I didn't think I would like it at all. My wife made us move here. I wanted to go other places, North Carolina,
Get out of the South?
Asheville. I wanted out of New Orleans,
Yeah.
period. And the South. I think the South is just stupid. And we got here, and I thought, oh, fucking rednecks with the pickup trucks. I love it.
Yeah.
This town
Sounds great.
is like a fucking postcard.
I know, it's like Disney's Main Street or something.
I had breakfast across the street, and I thought, this is the way to live.
Yeah, I like it.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it, and I didn't think I would.
Yeah, New Orleans is great too after you've lived there, then visit. Because then you can go to it's like having grandkids or something.
It's a great place to visit.
Yes, exactly. It's
Not
all the
live
upside,
there.
none of the downside.
Not live there. I always used to tell my wife I've been shot twice. And living in New Orleans, we'd walk down the street, and if the wall was here, I made her walk to the inside. So we got to the end of the wall, I could see around
Yeah.
and be ready. I said, I don't want to live like this. You
Yeah.
know, constantly worried. And I had a very good friend there. Sunday afternoon, 12 noon, unloading groceries. 2 kids walk up, give me or whatever. He was slow doing. They shot him, paralyzed him. Lived for 12 years, totally paralyzed.
Oh.
Very rich guy, a great part of New Orleans. I thought, I can't live like this. I can't. I'll kill somebody soon myself. I have to leave.
Yeah, I do miss. There's the walkability is of course amazing. The shade is amazing. The architecture is, you know what I mean. Like you miss all of that, and you get to Texas. You're like, where are the trees? You know,
Yeah.
like where are the where? Why is everyone so spaced out? But there's a cost to it also.
Yeah, and in Texas, what I found, it's really like 20 states in one.
Yeah,
You go to Kerrville and you go, what the fuck?
yeah.
Is this mountains or close to mountains?
Have you been to
And,
Big Bend yet?
Going this August. We're
It's
gonna
incredible.
go. So
You're going in August?
Yeah.
It's gonna be hot.
Yeah, well, we're
gonna be
used to
hot.
hot.
Not this hot. This is Big Bend is like, they're like, don't go hiking after 9:30 a.m.
Well, that's like New Orleans. Don't go out after 12 noon.
Oh no, New Orleans is like,
New Orleans
you better shower 3-4 times a day.
It's-
Big Bend is like, you'll die.
It's a wet hot.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I've jogged in Las Vegas, so I know what you're talking about.
I guess if you've been in Vietnam, you're not sort of like, you're like, whatever the weather is, I'll
You know
figure
what
it out.
Vietnam is? Exactly South Vietnam, Louisiana.
Yeah. Well,
Just like it.
that's why so many immigrants ended up there.
Exactly. I mean, when I flew into the main base, Thompson Newton, I got out and went, fuck, flew 30 hours and I'm back home? This is the same shithole as I left.
Because you grew up like in the swamp, basically, right?
Always in the swamp. I mean,
Like Cajun,
no
Cajun.
sidewalks, no lights, none. It just in the swamp. Yeah. Oh, definitely. My mother was a cajon. She talked like that job. I'd bring friends home and trying to interpret English.
Yeah.
What'd she say? She said, Michelle, she loved you. Oh, I see. She loves you. Yeah. Oh, God. No, I had a very interesting life there.
Yeah, your life is a movie. You grew up in the swamp, and then you got drafted. How old were you?
I flunked out of 3 colleges, kicked out of 1, flunked out of 2, getting ready to get drafted. So I joined the Navy because I'd never been in a fist fight, didn't like sports.
You came from boat people?
Huh?
You came from boat people.
Yeah. And I said, well, I'll have clean sheets and hot meals.
Yeah.
You ever see Apocalypse Now?
Yeah.
That's what I was on, the fucking 4-man, no officers, fiberglass boats in a bayou.
Yeah.
I went through 3 boat cruises. I'm the only one that came home. I mean, it was.
How old were you?
I was in my early 20s because I'd been through so
Sure.
much college.
Right.
Everybody else was 18. I was the old man of the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
And how long were you there?
there were 13 months. I went to the hospital twice, probably for about 5-6 weeks total, but 13 months overall. That's what I want to write. This guy, this Dr. Eagleman, when we went out to have lunch, I'd read his book and I said, look, can I ask you something personal? I'm crazy. I love to fight. I'm always in fights at bars, and I'm well known, and I'm always afraid people could find out how crazy I am. And he said, what's your history? I got to Vietnam, and he said, wait, you're wounded? Yeah. Where'd they send you in the hospital? What'd they give you? Well, morphine for the pain, he said. And that was it, you came home? No, I went back to combat. He said, wait a minute. How many times you go? I said, twice. He said, you on morphine? Did they ramp you off to go to combat? No. He said, that's why you're crazy. Dopamine is running through your brain. You love danger. When I was listening to your MMA interview.
Oh, with Frank Shamrock?
I was thinking, he didn't know it.
Yeah.
He was an orphan like me.
Yeah.
He went through violence like me. He ended up in prison. I almost did. That dopamine, he was saying, I got $1 million worth of insurance, so I said, now I can just go ahead and fight. Yeah. Well, that's not true.
Yeah.
His brain wasn't saying you could get brain damage and not get insurance and really fuck up your family. The dopamine was just saying, I love the feeling of, I think I'm going to die. I think there was a killing.
Living on the edge.
Ooh, I won.
Yeah.
Boom, dopamine. And dopamine immediately goes away. If serotonin doesn't come in, you just go looking for the next dopamine hit. And that was me.
So you sort of get messed up over there. You come home, and you end up as a janitor, right?
Well, you got a good memory.
I know your story. You end up as a janitor, which has got to be the opposite of a dopamine rush.
Got a job as a janitor because I had no education.
Right.
And 4 months later, I'm the key TV anchor in the biggest news operation in the South for 20 years.
No, it's like a Horatio Alger story. You're not supposed to go from being the janitor to being the on-air talent in a TV show. It's like if that was in a movie, they'd be like, you got to put some more time there. You got to spread this out.
If I wrote my life story, which many friends have said I should, I promise, I guarantee, not being modest, the editor would go, this fucking guy's lying. That's bullshit. Come on. Janitor, TV, at the zenith of TV, I quit, go to the corporation that I cost $40 million because of I did a documentary, and the CEO and I were almost in a fist fight. He offers me a job. I saved their stock, have offices all over the world. Other companies come to me, form my own company, make a shitload of money, have a daughter at 54 years old, totally enamored by her, quit my company, go take care of her, just be a dad at home. And a month later, a friend calls that had a radio show and said, I get cancer, I'm getting chemo, can you come in for one night? Sure. Katrina, I'm there 10 years. What the fuck?
I guess, knowing you're hooked on dopamine, that's a pretty good. The through line is just crazy circumstances and high stress.
Gretchen Rubin
Yeah.
said, the brain is listening for danger and opportunity. And that's exactly what dopamine is.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I would never have had the opportunities, accomplish what I did, because I loved the danger of, oh, fuck, I lied about TV news. I've never been in a TV station. You want me to what? The guy got drunk? You want me to take over the thing temporarily? I don't know how to read a prompt. I don't know how to. I'm scared. I love it. I'm scared shitless.
Right.
Corporation, mining in gold and oil and gas and copper. Scared to death. I don't know how to do this shit. And that's what does it. The mind loves danger.
Well, the faking it till you make it, there's the edge of, are they going to find out I'm not qualified? I can't do it.
It's dangerous.
I'm going to figure it out live.
It's an MMA fighter
Yeah.
walking into the ring, as he said, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And the minute you're not afraid, you're not going to do it.
And if I remember from your story, you weren't just, I mean, obviously this was the sort of golden age of local TV.
Oh,
but
I
like,
had the zenith.
weren't you like on the cover, because you and your co-anchor
Married.
were together. So it's basically the plot of Anchorman.
The first, I was Ron
Burgundy. Yeah.
We were the first couple to get married on the air.
Yeah.
We were in People magazine. We had a wedding in St. Charles Avenue. We had to put a live truck 10 blocks down at another church. People found out about it. There were over 1,000 people when we came out of the church. Streetcars stopped, no traffic in St. Helicopters, whole fucking thing. I was a janitor a couple of years earlier.
Oh, it sounds like a prank, like Trading Spaces or something.
It does. Definitely sounds like Ron Burgundy bullshit.
How did you keep it together? Because one of the interesting things about people that are sort of hooked on that is that they're often very successful, but then when things go well, there's also kind of an element of self-sabotage.
Divorced 3 times. The minute, and I always say, you can go back, I've been interviewed 10 million times. You can go back and read it. I've never said a bad word about a wife.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Wonderful women. They had bad taste in men. That was it. Because the minute my white picket fence showed up, all the money in the world, 2 houses, beach house, like,
You would blow it
divorce,
up.
give them everything. So every time I was bankrupt, all the way down the road. And I just could not stand happiness, peace.
Yeah.
So I had to just.
Do you think you just didn't deserve it, or what? Like,
No,
why couldn't you stand it?
I don't trust government. I don't trust the law. I know a lot about legal because of everything I've covered, from corporate to news to
Sure.
radio talk. I don't trust much. It's no longer anger, lack of trust. It used to be, I don't trust, and I'm going to get you before you get me.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I joined a fight club.
In New Orleans?
52 years old in Alabama. And my wife and child didn't know about it. I mean, I'm an old man fighting 18-year-old kids. And I got the shit beat out of me like the 7th or 8th or 9th fight I had. And I had to come home with a broken nose and
You just
piss and
you just
blood.
wanted the rush, and you wanted to feel the pain, basically.
The danger.
Yeah.
MMA, same thing. I was just sitting around talking to my friend Ryan. It's very nice, but God damn it. Let's go get some danger.
Has that declined as you've gotten older at all?
Well, I heard you say that you didn't think much of psychedelics.
Yeah. Well, I said I don't think much of it except for extreme cases.
Yeah,
For people.
military.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I just have been totally against drugs. But since I've been here, I've retired. I listen to podcasts.
I know you text me anytime I get mentioned anywhere, and you're on top of it. Like the day they come out.
I love this guy, Lex Friedman. You ever heard of him?
I know Lex, yeah.
MIT
Yeah.
roboticist, brilliant guy. And he had two people, one from Harvard, one from Johns Hopkins, talking about government-granted testing of psychedelics. That's bullshit. Then I heard Joe Rogan. Same thing. Then I heard Sam Harris. Same thing. And I said, well, fuck, I still got nightmares. I'm almost 80 years old. Yeah. I'm screaming at night. My wife and I
get worse.
Sleep together. So I thought, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So and believe me, getting mushrooms when you're my age, they think either you're homeless or you're a cop. When I finally got them, I knew my wife would kill me if I took them. So she went for a hike, and I didn't know anything about it. So I grabbed a handful and ate them. Oh, my God. So anyway, I did a lot more research, and we started doing the microdosing.
Yeah.
My wife agreed. And I noticed a slight difference, but the Johns Hopkins people in particular, I learned about these hero doses. I went that for 5 hours, and it cured me.
Really?
I mean, overnight.
It just rewired it or reset it or something for you?
Well, what Hopkins and Harvard and Stanford and the one in Houston will tell you, it builds new neurons.
Yeah.
They do MRIs, and they watch it and rebuilds neurons. It go in different directions. And their theory is that MMA in particular for veterans or...
Oh, MDMA?
MDMA, that they're as fucked up as I am is the best thing to use. But I had one with the hero's dose, and it was horrifying because I learned, I always thought we had little parts of our brains from the past, little flashbacks that we could access. There's a videotape in there.
Of everything you went through?
Of your worst moments.
Oh.
Where you don't see little pieces, you see the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
For 5 hours.
It was just playing it again for you? But then it was gone?
About 3 or 4 days later, I started sleeping for the first time in my life.
What was that like? A relief?
It was wonderful. It's been 40 years.
Yeah.
Afraid to shut your eyes at night. It's crazy.
Yeah, you were just white-knuckling it the whole time.
White-knuckling it, but having a good time with the danger of it. As I was telling my wife last night, I said that, what the fuck is it? I can't remember. Bear with me. The obstacle is the way.
Yeah.
He wrote it, I lived it.
Yeah.
That is, if anybody could read any book, that's it.
Wow.
That's it. Because people think, pain, danger, I'm going to run from it, get away from it, do something. That's not it. You just go, the Vietnamese called it sak mao, walk into the pain.
Yeah.
Walk into the pain. And that's the only book, not because I'm not to you, I'm too old to bullshitting, but that book is the only book that I read copiously. The only one I've ever read where I go, every young person should be required reading. Just, you got to go read that.
But what's interesting is you went into the pain for a long time, and then it turned out there's a way around it, or...
I got lucky.
Yeah.
Because most people like me end up in prison.
What is interesting, is I was at Andrews Air Force Base recently, and someone asked me about that. They were talking about moral injury, which is when you do something or you see something or you are part of something that's terrible, that stains you, that changes your brain chemistry. How do you re-enter society? You can't just, Stoicism to people means this idea of just, white knuckling it or just going into the pain, toughing it out. Nobody's strong enough to do that. You can't just experience something like that and then rub some dirt on it and go back to regular life.
Well, I'm oversimplifying, but Stoicism is using your brain to live life.
Yeah.
Chemicals are what rule you when you can't control life.
Yeah, you have to, if you don't process the emotions and deal with them, whether it's in therapy or with medically assisted therapy like you're talking about, if you just stuff it down, it comes exploding out when someone bumps into you at a bar, or you look around and you've got this beautiful family and a white picket fence and you go, I'm not worthy of this, or you have some self-destructive edge in you. You can't, if you stuff it all down, it comes exploding out.
Absolutely. My poor daughter has heard me more nightmares and anger. We were at a stoplight in St. Charles Avenue, had a beautiful convertible, and she's probably 7 or 8. And the light was still red, and the guy behind me beeped. I jumped out of the car, ran back, and grabbed him by the shirt. I'll kill you, mother. And he said, the car behind me. I had to go, the light changed. I'm sorry. And walk back and driving off, you can tell somebody's looking at you. Looked over and says, little kid goes, what is wrong with you? And you have kids.
Yeah.
You're just,
your
heart just drops. You go, what is the fuck wrong with you? And why can't I fix it?
Yeah.
I went to 2 of the top shrinks in New York that handle only survivors, plane crashes, car crashes, of war. And they worked with me for 3 weeks, and the 3rd week they said, yours may not be the war. You may be mentally ill. They put me on lithium and everything else you can think of. So I hired a detective to go find my blood family.
Yeah.
I find my father in Ennis, Texas, in a VA hospital, shot in the left shoulder. Same fucking place I've been shot. Schizophrenic, mental institution, his whole life. And I just got through with the 2 shrinks that said, you may just be mentally ill.
Have you read the book The Body Keeps Score? I think you would like it. But it's the idea that these things happen to us, we endure these things. It's not just in our brain chemistry, but it's sort of just literally in our bodies. And that if you don't find some way to process or some kind of support system, it doesn't end well. I think you'd like it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll read that.
Yeah,
I've heard of it before.
Yeah, he's talking about this guy. He was dealing with this veteran who, I think it was Korea maybe or whatever, and at the end of their sessions, the guy gives him his watch, the watch he was wearing in Korea that was, broken when a landmine went off or something.
Right.
And he was pointing at it strikes the doctor. He's like, time basically stopped for this dude when that happened.
Yeah.
And he was never the same. And it was only in, he went on and had a seemingly normal life, but there was always this undercurrent of.
I'd like to read that.
I think you would like it.
One of the key moments in my life, this guy, Eagleman, we're at lunch, and he's explaining dopamine, serotonin, saying that's what caused all this shit. And we talked, and towards the end of the dinner, I said, wait a minute. I wanted to be a priest before I went to Vietnam.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never had a fist fight. I had asthma. I couldn't play sports. Baseball scared me. I was afraid I was going to get hit by the baseball. Football was too dangerous and hurt too much. Never a fist fight, no nothing. And I go to this place for 13 months.
Right.
Come out the other side.
Different person.
Nuts. and a killer.
Yeah.
I mean, a killer. Priest, killer. And I said, who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy?
Yeah.
And he said, well, I don't think there is anybody. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, good people have good chemicals that society agrees with.
Sure.
Bad people have bad chemicals that society didn't agree with. Those bad chemicals almost always are brought about by trauma, childhood, whatever it may be.
Sure.
Well, if you don't mind my asking, how was your childhood?
It's all right. It was all right.
It was average?
I would say it had the appearances of all the things being good. There was no defining events like yours, but there was an undercurrent of something missing.
But you're driven.
Yeah, very much.
Why?
I saw this meme the other day that was like, daddy issues in women lead to like sex work.
Yeah.
Daddy issues for men lead to podcasts. There's some part of you that wants to be seen or heard or taken seriously.
Yeah.
And that's probably rooted in some sense of not
Sure.
getting what you tried to give your daughter unconditionally. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So there was I have no complaints materially about my childhood or life, but there was something.
But you are driven.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, in a good way.
I mean, but that's an interesting point. Your point about chemicals, right? Is there's sometimes people have, issues or chemical imbalances or coping mechanisms that are adaptive and some that are not, right?
That's what he was saying.
Yeah. And
I've got a friend that's a major Catholic. That's how I grew up, which I hate.
Me too.
I love him, but and he was saying, I don't believe that about brain chemicals. And I said, I can give you enough LSD right now that you become a motherfucker.
Sure.
Or I can give you some sort of chemical that will make you angry, or I can give you a chemical and make you so fucking docile you could be a mass murderer. And it's funny, he works at UT, he's a professor in physics. And I said, right there on your campus in the bell tower, Charles Whitman.
Yeah, one of the first mass shootings.
Eagle Scout, straight A student, never had a speeding ticket, nothing. Goes up and slaughters all those people. Left a letter. When you do my autopsy, check, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And they found a tumor on the part of the brain that causes anger.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, self-determination,
Sure,
self-directed, it does have an effect, but you got to have the chemicals that are going to mesh with where you want to go.
I read someone, I read a sort of an essay from a trans person. They were a woman who became a man, and they were talking about when they started getting testosterone, a lot of their opinions about men that they thought had to do with specific men, and culture. He was like, oh, I get it. I get it. I get where that's coming from, which isn't to excuse it, but we do as a society tend to assume everyone should behave a certain way and that everyone's capable of behaving a certain way. You think about this, like people who have affairs, you're like, that's obviously not okay. You said you wouldn't do that. You did it. You lied about it. There's all the reasons that it's wrong.
Yep.
And then you go, but maybe if you measured their levels and your levels, you wouldn't be so glib about saying they should just not do it.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of empathy for people who are just chemically, biologically genetically different than us.
I always used to tell people, married sex is like having a brand new swimming pool.
Mm-hmm.
You're in it every fucking day. You love it.
Yeah.
6 months into it, you're in it 3 times a week. A year later, you're barbecuing while everybody else gets in the pool. And it's a joke,
Sure.
but dopamine, when you meet somebody,
Yeah.
and it's the right dopamine, 12, 18 months later, if serotonin and Oxycontin doesn't work in, it's over.
Yeah, I think William Blake has this line about when you conquer an urge to realize that actually it was just that your urge was weak enough to overcome. And for some people, that's not the case.
I think that's what mushrooms did.
Yeah.
I was weak enough for it to overcome. Because I'm not sure if I'd done that hero's dose at 40.
Yeah.
If I'm doing Fight Club at 50-something.
Sure. Or to even think a lower dose of the things that you took, maybe no effect at all. We're having a very different conversation right now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This has been a great podcast. I don't want to keep you any longer.
No, we got more to talk about.
I'm kidding you. I'm kidding you.
I have this painting you gave me. It's in my office where I write.
Yeah, I know it. I saw it last time. That's very nice.
Did you ever meet Walker Percy?
Oh, yeah. Shit, yeah.
You did?
I'd go to his place and we'd
In Covington?
go to lunch and, yeah.
What was he like?
Like you. He was driven. But, see, I think it's a complex I have from not having education.
Sure.
I love talking to people that think like you think, that think like he thinks. And the reason you read, I heard it in one of your podcasts, you gather
Sure.
all the information that's been written 1,000 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
It's not just to be educated. It's because you get so much smarter
Sure.
when you do it. And that's the way he was. He and I used to argue religion and talk
He became very
science
Catholic,
and-
right?
Pardon?
He became very Catholic.
Yeah, and I was wanting to become a priest and then hate the Catholic Church. So we used to go around. But
He had a fucked up early life.
I didn't know that.
His father, basically every male in his family committed suicide,
Whoa.
like generationally. His grandfather was a senator. His father, his grandfather was hunting with Theodore Roosevelt when he didn't shoot the bear that became the teddy bear.
Wow.
That's how far back his family
Wow.
goes. But then his father committed suicide. Then they think his mother committed suicide. And he ended up being adopted by this guy, his uncle Will, who wrote this book, Lanterns on the Levee, which is like one of the beautiful sort of Southern memoirs about, that era. And so he and his 3 brothers get adopted by this guy who's almost certainly, he was a confirmed bachelor who he fought in World War I. He's a confirmed bachelor in the South who wrote poetry, right? So it's basically a closeted gay man in the South when you could not be a gay man. Yeah. Then he gets raised, basically in Greenville, Mississippi, and he becomes best friends with Shelby Foote, the historian. They're boyhood friends. But then he's going to medical school at Columbia, and one of the courses they have to dissect cadavers, and he gets tuberculosis from a cadaver and never recovers. It's why he basically is in quarantine in a sanitarium. He can't fight in World War II, so he misses, the seminal event of his generation, and sort of never recovers emotionally or physically from that stuff. And that's where the moviegoer and all his books come from, this sort of sense of
that's funny
ennui
with
and
the
frustration.
suicides. And if there's a chapter with this other doctor I'm reading in here, he said the dopamine, depending on your levels, is as close to schizophrenia as you can get. And that begets creativity.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, he started writing in his 40s late 40s, maybe early 50s.
I remember that.
And then, but I think one of the great American writers. And that's so cool that you got to know him.
Yeah, I got to know the big playwright, Tennessee Williams.
Really?
Yeah, he lived right down the block from the TV station. And I had two very, very gay friends, and they introduced me to him, and we got to where we could talk and visit.
How old was he then? Was he pretty old?
I think he was in his 60s.
Wow.
Now I look at it, didn't seem that old.
But now, what's interesting...
Then it seemed old.
Only in a town like New Orleans could you get to know... Like, New Orleans, the benefit of New Orleans is that it's such a small town where 90% of the people are doing nothing.
That's right.
So the people that are doing interesting things, it's a small club.
Amen. Amen. I don't know if I ever told you the way I started painting. I never painted.
Yeah.
I used to sketch real quick. And when I got to do the anchor thing, I was scared shitless every night for 2 years. So I'd kind of sketch the floor crew when we go to commercial because I don't know what
Just
to say.
something to do with your energy.
Yeah. And one of the floor directors, unbeknownst to me, would take my scripts because I'd throw them in the trash, take them out and save the little sketches. He came to me one day and he said, look, going to Loyola, he said, you're well known. If you let me Xerox these and sell them, I think I can buy my books. I'll pay half of whatever I get. So if you can get people to buy that shit, you go ahead and keep the money.
Yeah.
So about, I don't know, shortly thereafter, the head of Loyola calls me because they owned the TV station we were.
Oh.
He said, I see your art all over campus. I said, art? Oh, what? He said, little I can recognize some of the floor crew. I said, oh, yeah, good. And he said, how'd you like to do a portrait? So I've never done portraits, but I always sketch. I just like to sketch. And he said, well, you want to give it a try? I said, sure. Who is it? Pope John Paul. I spent 2 days with Pope John Paul. I had to go to the art store and say, I don't have to...
That's his famous visit to New Orleans.
Yeah, I said, I don't have to oils. I can do watercolor. What's it? And they said, pastels like chalk. Just put it on paper. So I thought to sketch him, did it. It became the poster for his visit, which sold over 3 states. And within 6 months, I was doing portraits for $20,000 and $25,000 a piece. I did Jimmy Buffett. I did the owner of the Saints. I did movie stars. I did Brian Williams' daughter, and on and on and on. So it's janitor, TV, Pope.
Artist.
What the
Insane.
fuck?
It's insane.
I'm still painting today.
Before the breakthroughs you had later, was painting a way to deal with the emotional issues and the stress?
Once I did the Pope's poster, and I thought, shit, I'll do things I've never done. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
It got to where not only was it good therapy, I always said if anybody saw me painting, they'd call it a shrink. Because I'd put on Tchaikovsky's Third Concerto in B-flat minor and be screaming it through the studio and throwing paint, scratching and tearing it. And it was great therapy. I just loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Have you read Churchill's book on painting?
No, I have not.
Churchill wrote this book called Painting as a Pastime. So after World War I, where he not only saw combat and was gassed and saw all the terribleness that was trench warfare, but he had before the war been like one of the fastest rising politicians and celebrities in the world, and it basically he blows it. His reputation is destroyed. He's bounced out of power, so he has this nervous breakdown. And his sister-in-law says they're at his house one day, and his sister-in-law gives him her children's paint set and says, I think this might be helpful for you. And he falls in love with painting. And I'm not sure Churchill that the world knows in the second half of his life, we'll fight on the beaches Churchill, the defiant Churchill, the Iron Curtain Churchill, the great Churchill. I'm not sure if that Churchill exists without the Churchill that falls in love with painting.
Yeah. I always tell people that I played classical music from the time I was 7 to the time I was 18, did concerts, everything else. And only music and painting do you truly lose time. You go something, it's like when you're writing.
Yeah.
You may be writing and say, man, good step I've been to, bet you've been in an hour. You've been here 4 hours.
Yeah.
You've been there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the people that are blessed with creative chemicals are the most blessed, because I don't think there's anything that tops that.
But don't you? I wonder if everyone is capable of it, because if you look at Churchill's paintings, they're not good. Like he wasn't good, but that wasn't the point.
No,
the point was the doing. Like the paintings. Actually, Brad Pitt bought one for Angelina Jolie that just resold for like $10 or $11 million. That painting is not worth $11 million because of its artistic merits.
Yeah.
It's worth $11 million because of what the painting did for the person who painted it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yep.
It taught him how to look at the world like an artist. It taught him to go outside. It forced him to be present.
I totally agree that anybody can do it. I had this big studio on the North Shore, big 30-acre farm, 2 houses. One whole house was a magnificent studio.
I saw your little one at your house. I saw your little studio.
Yeah, but this one is this combined with your building there. And I had 2 good friends, both of them multimillionaires, big businessmen. And they're watching me paint one day, and they said, you just think I can't draw a stick figure. I said, tell you what, I'm going to put you in here with an easel, put you in here in the easel. What's your favorite music? Country, classical. I'm going to play some music. I'm going to close the doors. I'm going to give you some booze and drink as much as you can. I don't care if you throw shit on the canvas, paint it, put it, whatever, just emotion.
Yeah.
Go for it. And when it's through, I'm sure it will throw it away. And see if you like art.
Yeah.
One lives in Phoenix now, has a 2,500 square foot studio where he does modern art, and the other one does folk art, and his entire barn got transferred into a studio. So you're absolutely right. It's within all of us.
Yeah.
But are you given the opportunity and the encouragement?
Yes.
If they hadn't said, come on, try the Pope.
Yeah.
Sure. I'd have never done a painting. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah. In the book, Churchill says, the most important thing that like a important, powerful, busy person can have, he says, you have to have 1 or 2 hobbies, and they have to be real. Yeah. Right? It can't be listening to classical music. It has to be playing classical music. It can't be looking at paintings. It has to be doing paintings.
Amen.
And it can't be watching sports. It has to be running or biking or playing back. Like, you have to do something that gets you, if not active, that gets you lost. Like, there's this scene, I talk about it in my talks, but Churchill is staying at the White House, and he walks into the Oval Office. It's late at night. And he sees FDR, and FDR is going through his stamp collection. And Churchill would have understood this immediately. Even if he thought collecting stamps was a dumb hobby, he would have understood why FDR was doing it and what he was getting out of it. Because Churchill's other hobby was bricklaying. He would lay bricks on his property. And if you should go to Chartwell. You can go to his estate in the English countryside, and it's ringed by this brick wall that he built, and one of the buildings is his art studio. And you can see what this guy, especially in the years that he was kind of exiled or in the wilderness, as he said, that this is where he spent his time. This is how he processed his frustrations, his anger, his impatience. This is how he thought about, his plans for the future. Like, he would not have been able to emotionally withstand the stress of the 1930s and the 1940s without these positive, adaptive coping mechanisms that he picked up.
You know, on another subject, I read today in Wall Street Journal, AM radio's dead.
Huh.
All the car companies are cutting it out, saying it interferes with electrical in the electric cars and whatever. This, I think, one man's opinion, I think is it. I think news is going away because of AI.
Yeah.
I think, what is it? What I read, 52% of Americans read on a 7th grade level. So reading is not going to be what it was. It'll always be there. But this, Joe Rogan right now has a video, AI video, of him interviewing Stephen Jobs.
Yeah.
And you can barely tell that it's not real.
I know.
Soon, it will look absolutely real. But this, at a certain time, from a certain place, you have a guarantee it's going to be real. You can't fake it. And an hour, you don't have the time. I wanted your interviews to be longer.
Yeah, I know. I do like listening to those like 2-hour ones, but one, I don't totally have the time to do it. And then two, I feel a little weird imposing, like asking for that much time for people.
Shit, people are egotistical. You want to talk to me? Sure, I'd love to. And it's only for an hour, and you're talking 3 hours later. And I was in Vietnam, and then I painted a Pope, and shit.
Well, it is funny. The audiobooks have had a similar impact in that, like, I hear from people that they were like, I didn't read books until audiobooks. And I think there's some authors and writers and publishers that have a kind of a snobbish view of that. But I think whatever by whatever means you take in the information, more power to you. There is something special about reading. Like you're here, you're reading this book, you've taken notes. I think that you have a highlighter. To me, that is the best way to get what an author has done. But listening to them on podcasts, watching videos of them, listening to audiobooks, whatever gets you out of your comfort zone, engaging with material, absorbing big ideas, I'm all about.
I agree. And the most of the books I read now, I heard on a podcast.
Yes. It's probably the biggest driver of discovery.
Oh, really? And
yeah, sure.
Go get a book.
Well, because if the person can keep you engaged for an hour or two, the chances of them being able to deliver that in a book are pretty high. Whereas conversely, if I listen to a podcast and I'm like, this person's annoying, this person's wrong, this person has no idea what they're talking, I'm not going to go get the book. So it's a nice way to, like, I was just in New York and I did CBS this morning, which was super cool opportunity to reach lots of people. I had 5 minutes. And I was asked questions by 4 or 5 different people. That's like, how can I explain something I've been thinking about for years? How can I explain a whole school of ancient philosophy in 12-second sound bites? But in a podcast, like when I did Rogan, when we talked for 2.5 hours, you can really go in depth on something.
You really can.
It's a much more conducive medium to
and
get ideas.
I'm probably swayed way too much towards podcasts because before the accidental radio show, my ego wouldn't fit in this room. I was an asshole egotist. And when I
wrote a book about this.
When I did the radio show, first 10, first 20, first 30 shows were, Ryan, what are you thinking? Oh, no, wait a minute. No, I don't do that. And then it was, And then, Ryan, I disagree. And I'd come off and I'd have my staff meeting, and they'd say, "Kind of kicked your ass, didn't he?" "What do you mean?" "Well, you said that, and he said you're wrong, and you didn't even come back." "Yeah, okay, so get better prepared for the..." And then finally it got to a point where just shut the fuck up. Ask him a question. If you disagree, ask it in a question and listen and learn.
Yeah.
And that was my introduction to critical thinking. I didn't know what critical thinking was.
Well, you may be the only person to have a media platform to go that direction, because it's usually the exact opposite. There's this David Foster Wallace essay about talk radio hosts. Have you read it?
Yeah.
And he's like, just go sit in front of a microphone and try to talk for 20 minutes. The ego you have to have and the self-absorption you have to think, not only do I deserve this, but that just me pulling thoughts out of my ass is interesting to millions of people. Like that's real. Like when you think about like Limbaugh or these other radio hosts, their secret skill, it's not the sound of their voice, it's their self-assurance that they deserve 2 hours directly in the ear of millions of people just reacting to fucking news as it's happening.
Well, the reason I got pushed into critical thinking was janitor, okay, TV. You're talking a piece of glass with the words flowing past.
Sure, yeah, you're just a teleprompter.
Takes no fucking brains. You got a lot of hair, you're average looking, you're good to go. Get into corporations, if you have a good idea that makes money, you're good to go. You get in a radio talk show, they ain't no prompter.
Yeah.
They ain't nobody sitting there, a partner to fill the dead air.
Yeah.
They ain't nobody, if you're interviewing somebody on quantum physics, to go ask them about the double...
it's hard to be interesting, to be not just interesting, but so interesting, they'll sit through the next commercial break and watch you do it again and not turn the dial.
Because you got to... I learned, okay, this is hard.
Yeah.
If you shut up and listen, and you go, "So I thought so-and-so, is that right?" "No, it's not, because ABC."
Sure.
Okay. And little by little, I was getting educated because I no longer was doing a show to show by how tough I was or who I was. I was doing a show to teach me something. I don't understand.
There's an Epictetus line, it's impossible to learn that which you think you already know.
And that's what's wrong with the world today.
Of course, yeah.
I called them, when I had the radio show, I used to piss off 2 million people, Demodonts and Republicans.
Yeah.
Because it's just cults that are built to echo chamber everything you thought is right.
Yeah, what does my party think of this issue? That's what I think of that issue.
And with critical thinking, you can't join a club.
Sure.
You can't get into an echo chamber because you're not looking to see how right you are.
Sure.
You're looking to see where you're wrong.
Yeah.
It took me about 30 years to reach that point.
So the final part of your story is these medical issues you've had since, right?
Is the one?
Well, so it's not like it's been smooth sailing up until now, but then it's also not like it's been smooth sailing since. You had a bunch of health issues like the last couple of years, right? Isn't that why you had to leave the radio show and some other stuff?
I want to show you something. I'm a robot.
Okay. What is that?
Okay. All right. This is my voice now.
Yeah.
Okay. Watch. This is my voice now.
What's happening? Oh.
Oops. I this is my voice now.
What is that?
I have two computers in my brain. There's a battery here. Ooh, I'm feeling that electrical surge go through me. I have to turn my brain off at night and on during the day because the electrical charge gets too much for the brain. You gotta let it rest.
Yeah. And what is that? What happened?
You know Robert Kennedy?
Yeah.
Jr. or whatever his name is, he has essential tremor. That's what's wrong with his voice.
Oh.
As when I was on radio, I'd type, and I noticed my hands starting to tremble a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And then I noticed the voice going up and down. And then we started getting calls from people saying, is he okay? I went to Mayo in Minnesota. They said you have something called essential tremor. And if we don't operate, you won't be able to feed yourself, you won't be able to walk, won't be able to talk. Worst version of Parkinson's. And 5-hour operation where you're wide awake and they drop two computers in your brain and everything's okay. I mean, I can paint. I can do that before it was that.
It's never easy with you, is it?
No. Here's the best part. Last year, you're going to think I'm so full of shit. Last year, I developed, see a scar?
Yeah.
I developed a little white spot and a white spot on my tongue. Went to the doctor, he said, you got cancer. You did a biopsy.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what do we do? Chemotherapy or what? Because I've had cancer before. And
Something we just skipped over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, now you got 3 to 6 months to live.
What?
I said, okay. So made the tour of the country, said goodbye to all my friends, came back, went to him again. He said, well, it's in remission. I don't know how it's going to stay. September, I go to him. He comes back. He does another biopsy. He says, maybe 2 to 3 months to live now. I've got a guru in Florida. She's female. And she does all this kefir and stuff that I've never had COVID. And I think it's because of her. And I tell her about this. She says, you can self-hypnotize, can't you? I said, yeah, I do it all the time.
Wait, what's that?
Self-hypnotism?
Yeah.
Where you hypnotize yourself.
Okay.
I know how to do that.
Oh,
Because one of the top hypnotists in the world was Dabney Ewing out of New York. New Orleans. He was a bone surgeon. But he got interested. He wrote a book that thick. I saw him on the Today Show.
Oh.
Went to him to stop smoking cigarettes. Told him I thought hypnosis was bullshit.
Sure.
He said, let me try it anyway. And it worked. Then he taught me how to do it myself. So my guru says, I'm going to send you tape of a neuroscientist doing a TED Talk about placebos, placebo effect.
Yeah.
She's done a major study on MRIs and CT scans. Said, won't you go ahead, self-hypnotize and every day tell yourself you don't have cancer? I said, come on, Jennifer. She said, what have you got to lose?
Right.
I said, all right. So I started doing that. And a doctor friend calls and says, look, I understand what you got. Let me cut it out. That may give you 2, 3, 6, 8 months along with your wife and daughter. So, all right.
No, I'll stick with the hypnotism.
Yeah. So we go. I've been doing that for 3 months. So we go and he does the surgery. And we go back a week later, he takes stitches out. I said, Doc, did you find a lot of cancer? Meet him about a little bit. He said, Garland, there's no cancer.
You're like the luckiest / unluckiest person of all time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I mean, it's a true story. I am fucking cancer-free. I had 2 doctors in Houston. The best of the best say, you're gone. We can't do chemo, nothing. And I go home and
What was before the magical miracle treatment? How did you take that?
I was good.
Yeah?
But yeah. The second time I got hit overseas, I got hit in the lower stomach with shrapnel. I thought I had my dick blown off because it was just all blood and guts. Well, you don't get much more scared than that.
Sure.
I thought I was going to die. Helicoptered out and the whole thing. Thought I was going to die when I got this too. So I've come near death so many fucking times that this was kind of like, okay, it's been a great life, very unusual life, and an old fart, time to go. It was, my family took it hard, but it was like somebody said, want some ice cream? I said, yeah. That was it.
And then what's the feeling when it's not there anymore? Is it the same? Are you total even keel either way?
No. When you're told you don't have it, you go, what the fuck am I going to do now?
Huh.
Because your brain went, life is over.
Yeah.
Say goodbye.
Right.
When told all your friends,
Yeah.
bye-bye. And now you go, so what do I do now?
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for painting, I don't know what I'd do. Sit around and drool. But I work out 5 days a week with weights and bikes and jogging, and 80 years old, I'm strong as an old fart can be, and I don't have any health problems. I mean, I got a fucking remote in my pocket to turn my brain on and off. I mean, I was with a group of people at UT a couple of months ago, and they were talking about AI. And I said, I think eventually we'll have so many replacements that we'll be like robots. And they said, no, come on, man, it's never going to get it. But I said, you don't think so? I said, how about hips?
Sure.
How about heart?
Yeah.
How about all the replacements we can do now? And I went, how about this? And I did that bit, and they, what the fuck? I said, I'm a robot. I'm a walking, talking robot.
Sure.
I mean, so when I look at brain...
So you lived long enough to become a robot.
That's right. When I look at chemicals and electricity, I really wonder. I used to put people in categories. I don't like them. They're motherfucker. And now I go, I don't know what their chemistry is.
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
know what their electricity is.
Or maybe just who they are right now. Maybe they'll be different after they work out. Maybe they'll be different after the postpartum depression leaves. Maybe they'll be, who knows?
I heard you in your podcast that they say the way I handle stress, I just go, I go run.
Yeah.
And I thought,
Yeah.
Rogan says it all the time.
Well,
motherfucker, go to the gym, go run.
I'm dealing with this right now. I'm not writing as much. I'm not working on a book right now. And so I'm noticing that clearly I developed that practice to function as a human being.
Yeah.
And so when I stop doing that, other stuff comes up. It's not as maladaptive as drinking or
but it's
getting
close.
into fights, but it keeps me regulated.
Yep.
And so when you take away that source of regulation, then you have to figure out either you're okay being unpleasant to be around, or I've got to figure out some substitute or some way to deal with whatever the underlying thing is. And this is, I think, where hobbies obviously come in, because the nice thing about a hobby is that, like, your professional success is going to rise and fall, but the hobby, painting or running or woodwork or whatever it is, it's always there. And it's not about winning or losing or recognition or sales or, any of that. It's just always there.
And something you love, like writing, painting, music, the thing I like best about, I never like being the same.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I don't paint like that anymore.
Right.
I drew here, in here, in here. I've got to grow.
Yeah, I've seen your art is very diverse, and it's gone through.
I got to grow. I got to change, and that goes back to the obstacle is the way.
Sure.
Because if you don't hit this. Well, trying this new form of pain kind of looks like shit.
Yeah.
You keep it and you go, well, that's not bad.
Right.
And you may not use it, but you use a piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you don't go to the obstacle,
sure,
you never get there.
Well, keeps the ego at bay too, because if you stick to where you feel good, right, you're always puffing yourself up.
Yep.
But if you go to where you're not good, where you're uncomfortable, where you're challenged, even if you don't get great at that thing, you have the benefits that come from being a student, from being humbled, So you have to constantly be seeking out. You have to go towards the harder way to do it, or the different way to do it.
Absolutely. It just, that book, not because you wrote it, I gave it to my daughter. And I said, the minute you get comfortable and a little bored at work, think about another job.
Yeah.
Think about disrupting your life. Mm-hmm. Even if you fuck up.
Yeah.
Think about doing it, because I told her, your mother and I are sitting here with enough fuck you money to be retired, not paint, and she hikes.
Yeah.
And you have a nice life in Austin. But if I hadn't, I'm a janitor, I'm a lie about TV, I'm going to go to the corporation that hates me.
All the good stuff's on the other side of the risks and the gambles. And
that's it.
Yeah.
The obstacle is the way.
Yeah.
That ought to be a fucking book they teach in school. I'm serious. Because it's really, critical thinking should be the way.
Yeah.
Because if you're not hitting an obstacle, that means your ego's taking you through what the obstacle is.
Yeah, there's a John Wheeler quote. He's a physicist. He said, as your island of knowledge grows, so does the shoreline of ignorance. So as you learn stuff, what it should be doing is exposing you to stuff you don't know. Like as soon as I hear about a new writer, let's say, like I read something and then I go, not only did I not know about this person, now that I know about this person, I'm learning all of their influences, all the and so suddenly you get thrust into this new world where you're exposed to all these things that you didn't even know that you didn't know. And that's the process that helps you sort of get exponentially better, right? Because if you're just sort of putzing around in your little paddock of comfort or familiarity, every once in a while you bump into something that you don't know. But if you're patrolling the edges, those edges are getting wider and wider each time. You're being exposed to more and more things. And not only is that self-fulfilling, you're always learning more and more things, but you never become an egotist or an asshole. You never think you know it all, because every day you're just waking up and you're being constantly reminded of all the things you don't know. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. If I had to point in my very strange life as to what was the best part, it'd be radio talk.
Yeah.
Because, within 2-3 months, my ego was gone. And all I could think of is, okay, I got a guy coming on, we're going to talk physics. Going home for 6 hours, read everything I can, and ask him. It wasn't about telling him what I knew. It was, I'd go and
learning from them.
I know that.
Yeah. Sure.
God damn. I don't know if you've seen it, but if you're talking here, there's real power to it. Mm-hmm. People are listening in the car or iPhone with the jogging or whatever, and if you go to a cocktail party and you say the same thing, I used to tell people all the time on a radio show in New Orleans, I do 3 hours on quantum physics, and when I got through, I had the guests that boy, I could really go to a cocktail party. Say, guys, you hear they have a conflict? No. What? 5 minutes. Can I get your drink, Garland? I just remember I got to burn my hemorrhoids out. I got to leave for a second. There's something
Sure.
about it that makes a mystery or something. There's power to it.
Well, I'm very glad we finally got to do this.
Yes.
And I got to return the favor.
Yeah, yeah.